our Bookseller Chill webinar with Bryan. We're recording these for later viewing if you want to share with your staff. Thank you all for joining us today and making time for self-care, which is so important right now. Today is the final session. The session will last approximately 30 minutes and is inspired by Bryan's so helpful book, Chill, Turn Off Your Job and Turn On Your Life, which is a book I've read at least 2, maybe 3 times. I really recommend that you read it because so many of the concepts that we've gone over in the series are from that. If questions arise during Bryan's presentation, please ask them in the chat. Now I'd like to introduce Bryan. Bryan is a psychotherapist who has built his career on the themes of resilience, work-life balance, and well-being. His research has been featured on numerous national programs. He also hosted the PBS documentary, Overdoing It, How to Slow Down and Take Care of Yourself. He's a contributor to Forbes magazine and Psychology Today. So Bryan, I'm turning it over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Linda Marie. It's my pleasure. I wanted to make an announcement before we do our first meditation so I don't forget. Today's our last session. I feel a little sad, but I'm also a little excited because there's going to be a Super Bowl on September 10th, 2020, and you'll get I think Linda Marie's going to be sending this out. It's called Resiliency 2020, and it will be a culmination of a lot of the things I've been talking about from people or celebrities from all walks of life. I'll be co-hosting with my colleague, Dr. Joy Miller from Peoria, and we have Alanis Morissette, who will be speaking, Ariana Huffington, Lee Child, who wrote all the Jack Reacher books. Let's see, Erin Brockovich, Rhonda Ross, Diana Ross's daughter, who's a singer-songwriter, Tara Brock, Ray LaHood, who was the Secretary of Transportation, Lee Child, who is, Del Shores, who's a Hollywood screenwriter, director, and producer, Ruben Studdard, who won the American Idol one year, and the list goes on and on and on. Tara Brock, I think I mentioned her. Dr. Harville Hendricks, who started Imago Therapy, and I'm sure you have his book in your bookstore. Most bookstores have his books. So it's going to be a 3-hour. It's free to everybody, and all the donations go to first responders first for all of our heroes on the front lines. We're all donating our time, and there'll be even more. I think we're going to have Brene Brown. We're just waiting to hear back. So please join in if you can. Like I said, it's free, and you can make a donation or not. So let's start our meditation. Today, what I thought maybe we could do is just take a minute. And this is something I do almost every day. And I just go inside and as if I'm looking in a closet that I haven't looked in 5 years, or a basement, or a cellar, or an attic. And I just notice what parts of me are stirring a little bit. Now, if you remember, parts are those aspects of ourselves that are not us, but they cumulatively add up to us, like worry, and I think of that as an entity. Control or lack of control, that's an entity. My anxiety, my anger, my fear, my avoidance, my procrastination, whatever is stirring, and you just look at them as if they're little people or aspects of you. And all you're doing is watching. You're not fixing, you're not avoiding, you're not fighting with them or trying to change them. You're just observing. That's all you're doing. We'll do this for about 3 minutes, and it's best to close your eyes a little bit, but if that's uncomfortable, you can leave your eyes open. And all you're going to do is not try to remember, but just notice. And if there's one part that's stirring a little bit, like if you have something there that's been kind of nagging at you, you can just take a little bit of time to observe it for a second or two, and then just keep moving on and see what all's in there. Okay, and this is an experiment. We'll see what you come up with. Remember the AAA, become aware and then acknowledge. And I'll sometimes say, oh, worry, I see you're stirring. Yeah. Okay, I see you're here. It's okay for you to be here. So I allow it. That's the third A. So there's awareness, acknowledgement, and allow. All right, so we're going to start now.
This guy.
And all you're doing is just watching. And if you're not able to focus on a specific part, just notice your thoughts about it. Just watch. That's all you're doing, like you would look at a blemish on your hand. Oh, we have a timer, right?
Not on purpose.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably okay. We're almost at 3 minutes.
Okay. Yes, we do.
We'll take advantage of that. Well, we had that planned, didn't we, Linda Marie? What do you notice? Anything in particular you want to share?
Are you asking?
Yeah, I'm asking the group, including you.
Well, I'll start. Oh, maybe Mary would start, but she's mute.
I'll start. Thank you. I
Hey, Mary.
noticed that. Hi, everybody. I feel that there was one tranquil trigger, and it was service that came up, and it just mirrored tranquility. And it was a great observation that there were other things that were bustling coming through, but when I got to service, that one just went, whoo, okay, yeah. And it just kind of, was there. It was a really good feeling.
Yeah, how would you describe the feeling if you could put a word to it?
Honestly, the image was like a mallard duck floating on a creek. Cool. Very bright, very purposeful, very intelligent. And the feeling was connected me to, like good timing. And I guess in summary, this livelihood came together in tranquility.
Oh, cool. Anybody else?
The other thoughts were not like that. Thank you.
Anybody else or not? Linda Marie, do you want to share?
I'll share that I noticed, and I have had a day that day so far where I'm really in my head. Yeah. And because I'm just dealing with a lot of different things. And it's not negative, it's just a lot of brain work. Yeah. And so that I did notice that I did notice that, and then notice that it was not negative, which was really nice. But it also, in the noticing that, I made an effort to get back into my body and ground myself. Yeah. Okay. This exercise, by the way, for me, when I do it, I feel calm and feel my heart rate lower, and I noticed I took a breath automatically. Because when you focus on worry, you don't feel worry, you're just focused on it as a part. Or if you focus on depression, you don't feel depression necessarily, you just focus on, you're just aware that that part of you is there.
So you don't have to feel it to focus on it. You're just watching it. That's all you're doing. And it gives you a little bit of distance from it. And the distance puts you in what I call the C spot, which I've mentioned before. And if you practice this enough, it'll start to be automatic, where you'll feel some of those C words: calm, have clarity about what's going on inside, sometimes compassion for a part of you, connectedness to that part, and it'll spill over to other people sometimes, compassion for other people, and builds your confidence. So all those C words tend to come up again. Over time, you widen your resilient zone. So the theme today is review, perspective in review. And I want to do a little exercise with you. This may not work as well because you're all in familiar environments. It works better when you're in an environment that you're not familiar with, but we're going to do it anyway. I want you to take just a few seconds, and I want you to notice as many things around you right now that are blue. It can be something you have on, something somebody else has on, anything around you that's blue, and just see how many things you can identify really quickly. Okay, now close your eyes. Now I want you to remember as many things you just saw that are yellow. What happened?
I drew a blank
Why?
because I was concentrating on blue things and not trying to remember yellow things.
Exactly.
I totally ignored the yellow.
Right. How many of you experienced that? That you had trouble recalling some yellow? Yeah. Here's why. What just happened is your mind went into, you remember we talked about the zoom lens? We're hardwired for it. And when I ask you to focus on the blue, that's like your lizard brain. When something like COVID-19 is happening or some kind of threat, your brain automatically does that and it clouds out everything else. So you couldn't see the yellow because you didn't have on your wide angle lens. You only saw that. And you can see it's not the big picture. It's not the whole picture. So it reduces your clarity. You see that? Because clarity is about seeing it all. And now as you look around, notice all the yellow things in your office or wherever you are. There's a lot. I can see them in Nicki's office. She's got a lot of yellow spines on books, and even on her watch, it looks yellow or gold. Again, it's just a fun little exercise to realize how the mind works. And it happens automatically to every one of us, but we're not aware of it. So this can kind of elevate your awareness. A real life situation that happened to me is when I was in Venice about 15 years ago. And if some of you have been to Venice, I'm sure you've seen pictures if you haven't been there. What I remember is being overwhelmed with the smells of the food, the echo of the music, the gondoliers in the gondolas, the canals, the antiquity. And then the second day I started noticing graffiti on some of the walls. And then the third or fourth day I started to notice garbage in the canal. And toward the end of the week I was there, I realized how dusty it was and how hot, and the mosquitoes were biting me. And I remember thinking, gosh, this place is not what it's cracked up to be. What happened to me? My zoom lens took over, and I was looking at all the things I didn't even see to begin with, which was how incredible this place was. I had on my wide angle lens. And so what I did, if I saw the wide angle lens to begin with, I can recreate that. So you have the power. And what I did was I remembered when I first got there, and I widened my lens, and scientists call this broaden and build. It allows you to see more possibilities. It allows you to see solutions instead of just problems. It allows you to be creative. It calms you down. It puts you in your C spot where you have all those C words. It gives you more clarity, and it gives you a truer perspective of what's going on. And plus it made me feel better. I felt so much better going back to the wide angle lens. That's one of the things I want you to take away, because it's a powerful thing, especially when it seems like things are going wrong or are going to go wrong. But we know that 90% of the things that our brain tells us is going to go south, they never turn out the way we think they're going to. We call that forecasting, which is, again, the lizard brain trying to keep us safe, to warn us. The problem is we go through the psychology as if it's already happening. And we have the body bears the burden, takes the toll, because we created the story in our head. And often, not only does it not happen the way we think it's going to, the reverse happens, the opposite happens. It's rarely as bad. So I wanted you to know that. So I've given Linda Marie a summary of everything we've talked about so far. And I want to, we don't have time to go through, because there are 50 items on the list that I don't know, did you send it yet, Linda Marie? Or
I did. I attached it to the invitation to everyone.
Okay. And some of those things I just mentioned, and I'm going to go through a few now, just to kind of remind you of some of the tools that you can continue to use. And you remember grounding, which is a quick little exercise. Linda Marie mentioned a second ago, the exercise to help her feel back in her body. That is so important when we spend a day in our head. And we've all had those days. I know I have, and I still do every once in a while. And it's sometimes we're not even aware of it, but you got to be aware. And once you're aware that all those things are spinning around because you've been in meetings all day or whatever, it's a quick way just to get into your body and start to feel relaxed and to get out of your head, because worry, anxiety, fear, all those things reside right here. And when you do the grounding, you automatically, just by paying attention to focusing on the bottom of your feet and the floor supporting it, and your bottom in the seat and your back, that immediately brings you into your body. And when you come into your body, you come into the present moment. And the present moment is where there's no problem. You're in your C spot. Resourcing is another tool that we used, where you can pull up something from your past, a memory or a spiritual figure or a pet or a person that you love or an experience in the mountains or at the beach. And that can also bring you into your C spot. We did the butterfly hug. I've talked a lot about the wide angle lens and flipping your wings, remember that? Having a to-be list alongside your to-do list. Your tall comings versus shortcomings. Linda Marie made a comment I hadn't really even thought about. She said she liked the way I play with words, and I realized that's true. I have lifelines instead of deadlines, because words carry a lot of, they carry perspective, they carry image, and sometimes flipping a word can immediately give you a different way of looking at something that relaxes you or calms you down, especially in the face of something like COVID-19. We've talked about parts, which is that's a tool in and of itself, is just to be aware that there's a part of me that's angry, or there's a part of me that's scared. And when you start thinking that way, you use the language of parts. You're not saying I'm angry or I'm scared. You're saying there's a part of me, and you feel the relief of that. There's an unburdening that occurs with it. And if you're talking to your spouse or your partner or a friend, and let's say you're upset with them, the language of separation helps them hear you. Like, for example, if I say to my spouse, I'm really pissed off at you right now, that's probably going to get a reaction. But if I say, there's this part of me that's really pissed off at you, that's easier to hear, because it's not all of me, it's some of me. So just using the language of parts instead of me, because you're not your anger, you're not your worry, you're not your sadness. If you were that, you'd be that 24/7, and nobody is. So just the whole idea of parts and thinking about who you really are helps you connect in an organic way with who you are. Yes.
Was that called blending? When
Yes.
you, Mhm.
Blending or tangling. I think of it as a ball of yarn. If I'm angry, I go around stomping my feet and I say, Linda Marie, I am so angry at you. I am my anger because I'm saying I am angry. And
Mhm.
but if I speak for it instead of from it, think about that. If I speak for it and say, Linda Marie, there is this part of me that is so angry right now at you. I would never be angry at Linda Marie. I couldn't imagine it, but you know, again, there's more of me that's not anger, and I'm not my anger. Question?
Well, that's kind of a way of advocating for the anger in a way, like you're advocating
Yes,
for that emotion without it
exactly.
being an attack.
That's right.
Mhm.
You're advocating for the part, absolutely. And
Mhm.
you can do that with yourself when you talk about, I realize, instead of saying, I realize I'm sad today, I realize I've got a sadness part. And then I can actually, I'm even just to myself thinking about it as a part of me. And I can even go in and acknowledge it once I'm aware of it. The AAA, acknowledge or aware, acknowledge it. Hey, sadness, I see you're here. What's up? And sometimes it'll even talk to me. And then I'm allowing it to be there. That's the third A. Okay, gratitude exercise. People who practice gratitude on a regular basis are 25% happier. That's a scientific fact because it widens your lens. If I'm, a lot of people are saying they're tired of, you know, being quarantined and they're tired of this virus. And when you do that, you're focusing again on the zoom lens. And it's okay to do that. But when you catch it, you do this and then you say, well, what am I thankful for? Gosh, I've got my health. I'm looking forward to this. I'm in a great relationship. Things are starting to look up. There's light at the end of the tunnel. It's a beautiful time of year. Kit and I were talking about living in the mountains and being in nature. And then you'll notice you feel better just because you did a little bit of gratitude. Talk about surrender, which is, there's a paradox about surrender. It's a form of letting go. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is not trying to control something you can't control. And when you do that, there's a release and you feel calmer inside. And I could spend a whole half hour just talking about that. The internal boardroom, that each one of us is the CEO, and we have all these parts that I've been talking about. They're our stockholders, but they're not who we are. But sometimes they will blend with us. They'll take over, and we don't even realize it. And the key is to unblend, not fight them, but just ask them to start talking to them. That's where the AAA comes in. And when you talk to them, and if you have an image of them or just an amorphous sense of them, then you feel that distance. As you feel the distance, it automatically puts you in your C spot. Again, calm. I'm clear. I'm real clear on what's going on inside of me now as a result of this. I have some compassion for my sadness or for whatever it is. And then you have all these really good feelings. I mentioned neuroplasticity, by the way, which is this came from neuroscience, where scientists now are looking at the brain, and when you do something different in the heat of the moment instead of the same old thing, it creates new neural pathways in the brain. What I have been talking about in all these sessions is if you practice the MicroChillers, and just to remind you, MicroChillers are 5 minutes or less tools that you can build into your day. Sometimes you can do them when you're walking to your office or driving to your office whenever you start driving again. But neuroplasticity creates new neural pathways in the brain. And as it widens your resilience zone, there comes a point at which you find yourself automatically not worrying as much or not reacting to somebody like you used to. And we can see it with MRIs, we can see the changes in the brain, which is, and you have these books in your bookstore. There are a lot of books coming out about how you can change your brain basically simply by taking a different perspective. I don't think I talked about masturbation. I may have. That's not my term. That's the term by a psychologist by the name of, oh my gosh, I'm not going to spend time on trying to remember his name. For some reason I can't. But masturbation is when I tell myself, I don't tell myself, but I've got this part that's saying you must, you have to, you should. It's also known as shouldy thinking. That's not my term either. That's a term by another psychologist. And the reason they assign these terms is because you will start to catch yourself doing it. So when you do that, you're basically putting pressure on yourself and you don't realize it. If you change
yourself,
the what?
You're guilt tripping yourself.
Yes, you are. Yeah. Or requiring yourself. And I have practiced this, and I'm telling you, I've had some aha moments when I catch myself saying, I have to go do this. And then when I step back and I say, wait a minute, I'm choosing to go do this, or I want to go do this, or I planned, even if I don't want to, I'm planning to do this, because it's oppositional language. It's oppressive. And it's like somebody standing over you with a whip when you say, I must, I have to, and I should. So if I say to you, I should have gone to church on Sunday, you can hear that there's a shaming in that. But if I say to you, I could have gone to church on Sunday, but I decided not to, I'm holding on to my power. I'm not putting myself down, or I'm not guilt tripping myself because I made a choice. And that goes back to Viktor Frankl. It goes back to, I just wrote an article on Psychology Today. It's getting, gosh, I think 100,000 hits about that 90 minutes that we have to make a decision. And after 90 minutes, it's biochemical, but after 90 minutes, it's the person choosing to stay in that state. We always have a choice, and Man's Search for Meaning is a fabulous book that many of you I know have read. I know we're coming to the end of our session, and I wanted to read a poem. This is going to be the meditation for you. It's my favorite poem in the whole world, called An Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters by Portia Nelson. It's chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it's there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault, and I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. And everybody has some street that they keep walking down and falling in. And I love this because we can all identify with what is the other street we can walk down. And for me, it's constantly paying attention to how I experience my life, because I have power on how I experience it. So remember what John F. Kennedy said, and this is what I'm going to leave you with. Ask not how life is treating you, ask how you are treating your life. That's where your power comes from.
I don't want to leave.
I don't either. I'm going to miss you guys. This has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.